step number 7 is, how can I journal about my positive self, my positive talents and abilities, to start gaining a positive self-image?
I think that in approaching a positive self-image, one of the basic questions, or maybe the basic question, is, am I what I am supposed to be? Right. And then the question comes up, what is it that I am supposed to be? Right. I dealt with this in one of my earlier books of Let Us Make Man, where I talk about the fact that Kodesh Baruch Hu created the entire universe by himself. And then when it comes to creating man, Hashem says, Na'aseh Adam. Right? Let us make man. And the obvious question is, whose help is Hashem seeking? And why could Hashem do everything himself? The galaxies, Hashem had no problem creating by himself. And for creating man, he's looking for help. Let us make man. And the answer to that, I believe, is what the Baal Shem Tov said. The Baal Shem Tov pointed out that everything in the world, everything in the universe that Hashem created was created in a state of completion. Right? Nothing in the world has to change itself. The trees grow into what they're supposed to be. Right? Animals are born complete. They just have to grow in size and in strength. Right? They don't have to be anything different than what they were supposed to be, than what they were created. And if a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, that is also built into the caterpillar, that at a certain stage in its life it goes into a cocoon and comes out as a butterfly. The caterpillar does not make a voluntary change by itself to become more beautiful than it is. It happens to it. The exception to that is man. Man is created as an animal with a potential, but as it says in Eve, a person comes into the world as a wild mule. But this doesn't stay a wild mule. He's supposed to develop himself into becoming a mensch. Right? Now, Bnei Shalom has millions of malachim that are perfect creatures. Right? And if Bnei Shalom had wanted more malachim, he would have created more malachim. Right? And when he created man, it's because he didn't want man to be a malach. Right? He wanted man not to be created perfect, but to be created imperfect and develop himself into some level of perfection. So that's why Kodesh Baruch Hu said, let us make man, turning to man and saying, you and me together will make a mensch. Right? I will give you the potential. I'll give you the body and I'll give you the neshama. And what you do with it is your job. Right? And if you work on it and refine yourself, so that you become different than an animal, right? Then you become a mensch. Right? So that's why Kodesh Baruch Hu said, let us make man, because it says if I can create a man as a spiritual being, he's another angel. Right? And I don't want another angel. So we have to look then, what does it take to become a mensch? So let's take a look at what are the things that distinguish man from animal. One of the things we noted this morning was sapiens, intelligence, but we agreed that intelligence does not make the finest person in the world. It's important, right? Animals do not think about what their goal in life is. A human being has the ability to think about what he or she wants to do with their lives. Right? And that's what the important first panic in Mesilas Yesharim is, Chayvas Ha'odam Ba'olamai. And Mesilas Yesharim starts out with, what is it that a person is supposed to achieve in the world? Right? Now, whether you necessarily come to agree with his conclusions or not is immaterial. All right? But the question is, what am I supposed to do with myself? What is my goal? Now, the thing is, we have 18 different goals every day, right? If I drive into the gas station to fill my car up, that's my goal for that moment. Right? And if I go to the grocery to buy food for a meal, that's my goal at that moment. Yeah. But what is the ultimate goal of life? What do I want to achieve with my life? That's something that only a human being has the capacity to do. Animals cannot do that. So one of the criteria of becoming a mensch is to think about and develop a goal in life and work toward it. But that's an ability that we have. It doesn't mean we always use it. Animals do not have an ability to defy a bodily drive, because an animal has no bechira. Right? If an animal is hungry, it's got to look for food. Why? It has to. Right? What about if an animal is going to decide, today I want to fast? It's an impossibility. An animal cannot make that decision. Right? We can make decisions to defy some of our desires, which is, again, something that a person can do and an animal cannot do. We have the ability, which is a very difficult one, we have the ability to forgive others. That's something that only HaKadosh Baruch Hu and man has, the ability to forgive. Carrying on a resentment and not allowing ourselves to forgive, right, is a animal trait. And forgiving is a human trait. Right. The ability to look for truth, whatever the price is a human trait. Animals don't look for truth. Right. The ability to delay gratification, right? Meaning I have a desire, but it's not right for me to work on it now. I'll have to delay that gratification to a better time. Animals can't do that. Right. The ability to constantly improve oneself and grow. Right? That's something that an animal can only do physically, right? But an animal cannot grow spiritually. Right? So to always seek to improve oneself, to improve one's midas. Animals do not have midas, right? And human beings have midas. And we have to realize, as Torah observant Jews, right, we have to realize something that is too often overlooked. That as important as mitzvahs aseh and mitzvahs lois aseh are, right? And what can be more important than kashrus and Shabbos or whatever? It's not quite as important as midas. And who says that? Reb Chaim Vital. Reb Chaim Vital, the successor to the Arizal, right, says that it is more important to be cautious about a person's midas than about mitzvahs aseh and mitzvahs lois aseh. Kaas is a midah that we have to overcome. Anger. I talked not about feeling anger, but about hanging on to resentments or going into rage. Right? And if somebody will say, but why do you say that? I know a person who's a very firm person, but he's a terrible anger. I said, why is he a firm person? Right? If he's got a terrible anger and he's not doing anything about it, he's not a firm person. Right? To me, that's like somebody saying he's a very firm person, but he works on Shabbos. That's not a firm person. And the primacy of midas is in several statements made by Reb Chaim Vital, which are enormous. The one that I told you about, where he says it's more important to focus on midas than it is There's another statement by Reb Chaim Vital, which is in a way, a shocking statement. He says, Hashem will judge a person primarily on how he behaved at home, not on how he behaved outside of the home. And Reb Chaim Vital, only an authority like him could say that. That a person who spent all of his life doing chesed, enormous chesed, all of his life, and now when he comes up to Shemayim after his 120 years, he expects that they'll open up the doors of Gan Eden and they'll take him right up to Avraham Avinu. And then when he comes up down, he finds that the doors are closed. And he says, what do you mean? I'm not getting any reward for all the chesed that I did? And the Beis Shalmala will say, we also saw how you behaved at home. You did not behave with chesed toward your wife. And if you did not behave with chesed toward your wife, all the chesed that you did in your 100 years of life is worthless. I mean, that's a powerful statement. All the chesed that a person does for others is of no account at all if he didn't behave with chesed toward his wife. It's a fantastic statement, and if you need to corroborate it, I'll copy it and send it to you. All right? So, midas are central to being a mensch. Right? And to the degree that a person can make a list of the midas that it was supposed to have, and you find them in the sefer such as Orchos Tzadikim, or other Sforim on midas, that if you say you're trying to improve your midas, right, then you're trying to become a mensch. Right? Talking about marriage, we've been, I'm sure, to many chuppahs, and we've heard people say the Sheva Brachos. Twice we say, Baruch Atah Hashem Yotzer HaAdam. Two of the brachos are Yotzer HaAdam. Why is that important? Why do you have to tell the Chosen Kala Yotzer HaAdam? Because basically the difference between a mensch and an animal is that an animal is totally motivated by self-gratification. An animal has no concept of doing chesed, of sacrificing of itself for others. The concept of chesed is a human concept. Right? And so what we tell the Chosen Kala is if you want to have a happy marriage, remember Yotzer HaAdam, that you're supposed to be a mensch. Right? You're not supposed to look at the marriage relationship as to primarily for self-gratification. And if you can be a mensch, then you can have a happy marriage. Once the attitude is of self-gratification, the marriage is on shaky grounds. Right. So, the question is how to develop self-esteem. The word esteem is related to the word estimate. How would you estimate the value of something? Look about at home at the things that you have and that you value, and tell me why you value them. And it'll turn out that things have value for only one of two possible reasons. Either they're very attractive and they're ornamental. Right? They have no function, but you have this beautiful picture, and it's decorative. So its value is ornamental. Or it has a function. Your furniture, your pots and pans, whatever, they have a function. So either function or ornamental. Then I take a look, okay, now let's talk about self-esteem. How do I estimate my own value? Ornamental? Huh? How many people are there that consider themselves truly ornamental? And yes, there are indeed some people who are exceedingly handsome, But that's not going to be with them for the rest of their lives, because that changes. As we grow older, we lose some of that. Now, if it's not ornamental, then the only other value we can have is function. And we have to ask ourselves, what is our function? If I can't find the function for myself, then how can I have any value? And that's why the Mesilas Yesharim begins the first paragraph, the first parak, with what are you supposed to do? And the Mesilas Yesharim comes up with the 10 steps of how a person is supposed to improve his spirituality, and how he's supposed to become more of a mensch by becoming closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Something which animals cannot do. Whatever their relationship to Hashem is something that we can't understand. Although there's a whole Perek Shira which talks about how the animals praise Hashem. But we have the capacity to draw ourselves closer to Hashem by developing our midas. And the more we develop our midas, we may not reach perfection, but the more we develop our midas, the more we come closer to Hashem, and the more we have a right to esteem ourselves, because that's our function. So, it's wonderful to do mitzvahs, right? And every mitzvah has an intrinsic value. But it's not enough for the intrinsic value of the mitzvah. The ultimate is the feeling that this mitzvah should bring me closer to Hashem. And the mitzvah can only bring me closer to Hashem when I begin to eliminate the barriers between myself and Hashem. And then what are the barriers? Right? The barriers are the negative midas. Gaiva is a negative midah. Yeah. Vanity, egocentricity is a negative midah. Kas is a negative midah. Selfishness is a negative midah. And when we eliminate those negative midas, we bring ourselves closer to Hashem. And bringing ourselves closer to Hashem, that is chayva sa'odam b'olamai. That's what our function is. And maybe we don't feel that we've arrived there. But arriving there is not the point. The point is working toward it. And every day that we feel that we're striving more on midas is the day of getting closer to Hashem.